My name is William Douglas Lansford. I was born in Los Angeles, July 13th, 1922, and I was raised principally in East Los Angeles, and part of the time where it's now the central part of LA. So as I went to grammar school, Castellar Street School, and which at that time was predominantly Italian and Mexican. And I went to a Catholic school. My father and mother were divorced, and my father got custody of me and took me to a foreign place full of güeros called Hollywood. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I couldn't speak English very well. I came from a Spanish-speaking house, raised by my mother and my grandmother. And I began making a whole different adjustment to the Anglo world, and went to Hollywood High School. But it was a school for movie kids and all that. But for the most part, I didn't know what was going on. And I did not enjoy being in school, so I did exactly the opposite of what I advise Latino kids to do today. I dropped out. And when I dropped out, I just drifted around a little bit, visiting friends and all that, and then I joined the CC camps. At that time, I was, I think, 16. Was with the CC camps for, I guess, about a year. And then I came out and tried to enlist in the Navy. But the Navy said I was too skinny and too young and too everything. And they wouldn't have me. So I kept going back there, I think, once a week, and I became I was haunting the place. We were not at war at the time. This was about 1938, 39. One day, by now it was 1940, and one day I went into the Navy station, and I went in and they saw me coming, and well, that pest is back again, Like the sailor said to me, you're almost there, but not quite, keep coming. So I walked out, and when I walked out, there was this gigantic looking guy. He was a Marine in full blue uniforms with medals and all that. He was the biggest guy I ever saw in my life, and he's standing there. He looked, and he said to me, "What are you doing in there, kid?" I said, "Well, I went in to try to enlist." He said, "You have any luck?" I said, "No, they said I was too skinny." He said, "That's what you get," he said, "for going around with the Navy guys." He said, "You should be with a real man's outfit, the Marine Corps." And I said, "Well, if the Navy won't have me, why would the Marine Corps have me? We build men," he said. And I said, "You think I could get in?" He said, "You go over there and eat a pound of bananas, and you stand on your tiptoes so you'll be a little bit taller, and we'll pretend not to see." So he said, "The next thing you know, in 1 week, you're going to be a Marine. I guarantee it." So I said, "Gee," so I did exactly what he told me to do. The training was fascinating. It was like, almost like a movie, It was interesting. We studied every way you can kill a guy, And started out with 1,000 raiders, and the old man narrowed it down to 800. And by the time we went to Hawaii, he had narrowed it down to 600, which is the way we ended up. So basically 400 never made the training. They dropped out. We're going to be there 2 days. We're making a beachhead for the Army and the Seabees to make an airport there. But The night that we landed in Guadalcanal, the raiders at Iola Point, 5 miles from us, a major Japanese force was landing. And the General Vandegrift got wind of that because they immediately engaged the Marines there and drove them across the river. One of the toughest Marines that ever existed, Colonel Hannigan, Medal of Honor, his outfit got driven across the river. That's how tough those guys were. Altogether, when they assembled, there were 3,000 of them, Japanese fresh troops with artillery, mortars, machine guns, everything. 20-millimeter guns. They were ferocious. General Vandegrift immediately sent a message by plane. They dropped a message at Iola Bay saying to Carlson, I want you to take your men and go out and scout and see what you can find out about this force that just landed and attacked Hannigan. He was concerned. Anybody that could drive Hannigan out of his position was no laughing matter. So he marshaled us and we went out into the jungle. And we were right on their asses. Right on their asses. Carlson saw an opportunity and he said, this is what my raiders were made for. And he said, boys, let's get them. And we began trailing them and attacking them. We attacked them day and night. And that commander, whose name was General Shoji, didn't know what was hitting him. Here these guys would appear and then they would disappear and then they would appear again and hit him, kill a few of them. But the harassment must have been terrible for the Japanese. And at the end of 30 days, the Japanese were semester. They didn't exist anymore as a fighting force. That was about the 5th day. What happened was that I had a machine gun position, and we were positioned to fire on the hill. I looked up first, and then the guy said, there's some guys walking up there. He said, but they look like Marines. And they have these long poles. And he said, what the hell are they doing? They got long poles. And I said, I know what they're doing. Those are Bangalore torpedoes. And they're probably sticking them in the caves to blow the Japanese out. Oh, he said, oh, yeah. And then I went back and started looking at the gun. And all of a sudden I heard this huge roar that just rolled down the whole island. Up there and the flag was going up. Oh, what a moment that was. The island just, it became like a living thing with this huge shout. And we thought, well, the battle's over. Well, it wasn't, of course. It would go on for another 15, 20 days, I think. But that was, as far as I'm concerned today, when that flag went up, we broke their backs. That was a turning point. From there on, there was no question that we were going to beat the hell out of them. And we did. So an opening came up at a place called AFRS in Hollywood, which was the Armed Forces Radio Service. But the guy said, you have to enlist in order to get the job. So I enlisted in the Army, and began doing radio shows. Aside from the radio shows I was doing for the Army, I began meeting the people at the regular commercial radio stations, NBC, CBS, and so on, and doing radio shows for them. I did mysteries and stuff, half-hour shows mainly. Then I got a chance to go to New York and meet Edith Haggard. I had enough money to go there. And I went there, and she sold the story to the Saturday Evening Post, the top magazine in the country at that time, and sold the story to Collier's magazine. So that's how I got started in the writing game. I stayed in the Army, though, because I really liked it, and I felt I owed them something. And when Korea broke out, I volunteered to go to Korea. I got to be a war correspondent, and I covered the front lines, and it was just wonderful. When I was in New York, Edith Haggard, my agent, who is a wonderful person, Edith had a connection with a big Hollywood agent here. They had a co-op deal, and he sold things to movies and television. and he began selling my magazine stories, second rights to the movies and to television. And they were top television shows that were doing, like General Electric Theater, and Ronald Reagan was a big shot there. And then I wrote this book on Pancho Villa, and that sold to the movies in 4 days. I can't tell you how lucky I was. I don't even know how those things happen. Ruth and I have been married now, I think it's been 52 years, I think, or 53 years. I didn't know I had that much stability in me. Bodies from the Marine Corps and from my services are all gone now. For a long time, we lived the good veteran's life. We went to the clubs and got bombed together and told each other big war lies and had a lot of fun, and now they're all gone. One of the guys said, I used to go to weddings and baptisms, and now I go to funerals. That's the way it is, I guess. Well, that's pretty much, I think, my story. Those of us who came home, unlike the ones that didn't, we had the rest of our lives to lead, and the usual course, marriage, children, the responsibilities of parenthood and supporting a family. That's pretty much, I think, the story of any veteran.